In this lecture, I'm going to discuss moving, rotating, and scaling actors within the viewport by using the translation, rotation, and scaling widgets. So how do you use these widgets? Well, when you select an object, you will automatically be ready to use one of the three widgets depending on which of them are selected at that moment. To see which widget is selected, look at the top of the viewport at these three icons here. From left to right, these three icons represent the translation, rotation, and scaling widgets. Whichever widget is currently selected will be blue. And then if the icon all the way on the left is selected, none of the widgets will be used. You can change between the widgets by clicking on their icons, or better yet, use the shortcut keys Q, W, E, and R to switch between them. These keys are in a row on the keyboard and activate the icons in the same order as they appear on the screen. So the Q key disables the widgets, the W key will activate the translation widget, the E key will activate the rotation widget, and the R key will activate the scaling widget. If you forget what these shortcut keys are, just hover over the icon and it will tell you in parentheses at the end of the description. So if I select this chair and I press the W key, I can use the translation widget to move it about my level. You can see there are three different colored arrows coming out of the chair. These three arrows are aligned with the X, Y, and Z axes of the level. If I want to move my chair in just one direction, all I have to do is left click on one of the arrows and use the mouse to move the chair back and forth in that direction. For example, if I click on the red arrow, no matter what direction I drag the mouse in, the chair will only move this direction along the X axis. And if I want to move the chair along the Y axis in this direction, I just need to select the green arrow instead. And if I want to move it up and down along the Z axis, I would use anyone? You in the back. Yes, the blue arrow. Very good. You guys are so smart. So what if I want to move the chair in two dimensions, but not the third? To do that, I just need to click on the connector between those axes. So for example, let's say I already have my chair here perfectly aligned with the floor, so I don't want to mess that up, but I do want to change where the chair is located otherwise. I just need to click on this connector between the X and Y axes, and I can move the chair forwards, backwards, left and right, but not vertical in any direction, so that it remains perfectly aligned with the floor. And what if I want to move an actor in all three dimensions at once? All I need to do is select this white sphere in the middle of the widget and drag the mouse, and I can move the chair in any direction I like. You can also select multiple actors and move them all at once. To select multiple actors, once the first actor is selected, hold down the Control key and continue to left click on each additional actor you wish to select. Note that the translation widget will only be visible on the last actor selected, but if you look up in the world outliner, all the selected actors will be highlighted. And if I use the translation widget, it will apply to all selected actors. Now, let's say I have the camera positioned exactly how I want on my actor, and I want to move the actor, but I don't want to disturb the camera position. Or let's say I want to move the actor far off the current edge of the viewport, and I don't want to have to keep moving the actor, then the camera, and then the actor. What should I do? By holding down the Shift key while using the translation widget, the camera will move right along with the actor. Note that this only works when moving in one or two dimensions. It doesn't work if you grab the white sphere in the middle and try to move in three directions. In that case, it won't even let you move the object until you release the Shift key. So again, this is useful if you want to move your actor while keeping the camera focused on it in the exact same way, or if you want to move the actor some distance off screen and don't want to have to keep moving back and forth between moving the actor and camera. Okay, so if you want to make a copy of an actor, one way to do that is to select that actor and press Ctrl W. Another way to make a copy of an actor is, when you're using the translation widget, if you hold down the Alt key, when you go to move an actor, instead of moving that actor, it will make a copy of that actor, which you will now be moving along that axis. So you can hold down the Alt key to drag out copies of actors. Alright, so moving on to the rotation widget. If you remember, I used the W key to select the translation widget. If I press the E key, which is directly to the right of the W key on a standard keyboard, I will now be using the rotation widget. Using the rotation widget, I can now rotate my actor around any of the three axes. So if I left click on this red arc here, I can rotate the chair around the X axis. If I click and drag on the green arc, I can rotate the chair around the Y axis. And if I click and drag on the blue arc, I can rotate the chair around the Z-axis. And similar to the translation widget, if I hold down the Alt key, when I go to rotate an actor, it will instead make a copy of the actor, which I can then rotate out of the original actor. Alright, so moving on to the scaling widget. If I press the R key, I will now be using the scaling widget. The scaling widget allows you to make your actors bigger or smaller. So using the same concept as the translation widget, I can increase or decrease the size along just one axis at a time. Or I can adjust the size 2 dimensions at a time by clicking and dragging on one of the connectors between the axes. Or I can change the overall size of the actor uniformly by clicking on the white square in the middle and dragging the mouse. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you can temporarily change the pivot of an actor. The pivot is the point in space around which the actor will rotate. It's located at the center of the transformation widget, which by default is located at the center of the actor. So for example, if I were to rotate this actor here, you will see it rotate around its center. But I can change this behavior by changing the location of the pivot. So to do that, I need to be using the translation widget, so I'm going to press W to use that tool. And now, using the middle mouse button, I'm going to click and hold on the center of the widget. And now I can drag this wherever I want. So I'm going to drag it over here, and now this location will temporarily act as the new pivot. So if I press E to switch to the rotational widget, and I rotate this actor again, you can see that it is now rotating around this new point. Okay, so now all I have to do is deselect this actor, then select it again, and the pivot will return to its default location. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the concept of world space versus local space. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let's say my chair is rotated a bit here from its default rotation. And let's say I'm using the translation widget. If this button here displays an icon of the Earth, it means that these axes here are oriented to world space. That means that no matter which way the chair is rotated, these arrows will always point in the same direction, and thus the chair will always move in the same direction relative to the world. However, if I click on this button, or use the shortcut Control backtick, this icon will change to a cube, which means that the axes are now oriented to local space. In this case, the local space of the chair. So if I toggle between the two, you can see the difference. So now, if I'm in local space and I move the chair, it will move in these new directions that the axes are pointed in. And the same with the rotation widget. If I'm in world space, I can rotate the chair like so. And if I'm in local space, I can rotate the chair around the locally oriented axes. This setting does not apply, however, to the scaling widget. The scaling widget will always be in local space, and it won't allow you to toggle when the scaling widget is selected. So again, world space makes the axes point relative to the world, while local space makes the axes point relative to the actor. And that will conclude the lecture on moving, rotating, and scaling actors within the viewport.